Hi, welcome to today's lesson in which we will learn about page orientation and how we can center text in a Microsoft Word document both horizontally and vertically. So, who's hungry? This lesson is called W5.16 Lunch, and in it we will create a lunch menu that is vertically and horizontally centered on a landscape-oriented document. Specifically, we will focus on formatting page orientation, whether it is like we could show here. This would be portrait. And then we can also do, where it says orientation, landscape, where it's turned sideways. All right, more on that in a minute. But that is one thing we're going to focus on. Another will be setting custom margins, which are different than tabs for sure, and then adding a page border. So not every document should be created in a portrait orientation. Holding a standard 8.5 by 11-inch paper vertically may constrain your design or restrict the layout options for text and graphics. Your page can easily be converted to the landscape orientation so that the page is wider. Text and graphics may be more appealing to the eye if your page is printed with a customized margin. So, before we begin this exercise, let's first open and save a new Word document into our existing BIM Word folder. So, you'll go to Microsoft Word, open up this new document, and we will, I'm going to start off with clicking on the View tab and just saying one page. You want to make sure that you go in and finish your header, and if you need to pause this recording, then please do so to catch up with this. Make sure you have it named properly and that you have your 4 lines of information in the header. That being done, you'll double click in the main body of the document and we'll be ready to go. First up, as we look at our directions, it not only tells us to put in our header, at the top of the document, it says to make sure our ruler is showing. And then we're going to be set to put in some of this information. One is, basically the first thing we're going to do is change the page orientation to landscape. And you see here it says the Layout tab, which is here, the Orientation icon, which is here, and then from there you choose Landscape, and you see that the page will turn sideways. It's really as simple as that. So once we are here in the body of this document, it says to press enter twice. And at this time, I'm going to go back up to the review, or actually the View tab, and I'm going to come back and select page width because this makes it so much easier to see and just kind of, it'll compress or become bigger as I move with it. So once I've changed it to page landscape, now I'm going to press enter twice, which is what I did, and then I'm going to make up a name for my restaurant. So I'm going to make up a name for mine. You have to make up a different name for yours, okay? So those of you that I shared what my maiden name was, I'm going to just go ahead and use that. Noodle Weaver's Faux Cafe, okay? And so I've got that in here. And I have typed it out. On the next line, type the name of your lunch menu. For example, lunch menu for Tuesday, and then begin your menu as follows. So here again, I think I'm going to actually just zoom this in a little bit because we're at 92%. Let's take it up to maybe 150 and say okay, so that we can see what's going on here. So noodle, I need to make sure this is spelled correctly. Noodle Weaver's Faux Cafe. And then on the next line, okay, it's going to say type the name of your lunch menu. So I'm just going to do this in all caps, lunch menu for Tuesday. Okay, that you can do the same. Your restaurant name should be your own, whatever you make up. Okay, And then we're going to follow the rest of these directions very carefully. So after lunch menu for Tuesday, we're going to begin our menu as follows. So now it says press enter twice and type the word starter, okay, like an hors d'oeuvre or appetizer. Then it says press enter and type the name of a type of soup. So your choice. Pick a soup. Preferably, you'll find something that all goes in together. Like for mine over here, I'm going to pull this up a little bit. I'm following this one just so that you can see. There is a type of soup, Unbo Q, and I'm not going to bother with little accents yet. Okay. And this one, again, after you type in the name of the soup, you press enter twice, 1, 2, and you type in your option 1. So sometimes when you go into a restaurant, they give you an option of what you'd like if you're buying a lunch special. So you go in, and if you get this meal, you have an option. You can get the soup and you can get the dessert, but then you have a choice of your entrees, and it'll be the same price. So option 1, I'm going to write here, I can choose from stir, and I just press enter once, stir fried rice with chicken. Press enter twice, and then my other option is it's vermicelli. Okay, press enter twice, and in the Thai or pho arena, they just call it a sweet, and I'm going to say it's an ice cream sushi roll. Fancy schmancy stuff, okay? I will look for, if you're doing home cooking, you can do a starter that could be a salad or bread, and then you could do option 1, be maybe lasagna or chicken fried steak, and then your option 2 could be like chicken fried chicken, and then your sweet maybe like a peach cobbler or something like that. If you're doing Italian, you could do a starter of salad or a soup, and then think about what you might get at Olive Garden. You can go online and look at Italian restaurant menus and work out something that way. You could do Chinese food. Obviously, we could do Mexican food. Everybody's up for Mexican. I have a personal favorite, Greek food, but come up with a menu. And my best advice to you would be to go ahead and look online at different types of menus and get ideas for what you would have on your own menu. Once you reach this point, go ahead and hit Command S to save what you have so far. And back here on the directions, that brings us now to the top of page 2. And this is where we're going to start doing some formatting. So the name of our restaurant, whatever you named it, we're going to change it up under the Home tab here to 16 point. We want to make it nice and big because that's our advertising, and bold. Okay. And then we're going to change the name of your lunch menu to all caps. So if you didn't already make this into all caps, you can either hit Command D, which brings up your font menu. Oh, where'd you go? Where are you? There we go. And that has a little place in here where you can say all caps. Okay, and just say okay. Or another maybe quicker way is to use this change case icon here under the Home tab and just say uppercase. This is a great place if you got to switch back, but in this case, just say all uppercase and you're good to go. That brings us to number 9. Italicize and center all of the text on the menu. Okay, so hold on to your seat for a second. I'm going to make sure view-wise that I am actually back in the page width view so that I can see everything that's going on my page. So all the text on the menu, italicize and center all the text on the menu. Okay, so I'll come up here, select all of it, and then I am going to come up here to the Home tab, and I'm going to hit center and italicize. There it is, okay? That's the bulk of my menu. So now we need to center the text vertically and horizontally. Well, it's already centered. We just did that horizontally, but how do we center it vertically? So what we're going to do, this walks you through it right here. Click on the Layout tab. And notice I still have this selected. I really don't have to because this is going to affect the whole page. I'm going to come up here to the Layout tab and then the Margins icon, which is right here. You have all these kinds of margins, but let's go down to Custom Margins because that will let us do what we want to do. And in the Document Dialog box, which is this box, okay, we want to make sure the Margins button is clicked because they have a layout too, but we want the Margins one, okay? Actually, forgive me, we do want the Layout button right here at the top. And we're going to look for the Page Vertical Alignment. And it normally defaults to the top, but in this case we want to say center, okay? And then we can just come down here and say okay. And this will move the text so that it is centered top to bottom as well as side to side. Works like magic. Hit Command S to save everything so far. And then we're going to go ahead and set our top right and left margins of the page to 3 inches and the bottom margin to 1. How do we do that? Well, we're going to go back and make sure we're on this Layout tab again. We're going to go into the Margins again, and we're going to say Custom Margins again. So this time, instead of the layout, we're going to make sure we click on Margins. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself there for a minute. Now, much like the tab setting dialog box, this gives you an opportunity to select margins on each side, and it even gives you a preview to see how that's affecting your text on the document. The top, they want us to set at 3 inches. You do not have to put the little inch marks in there at all. You can just leave it as the number. The bottom, they want us to leave at 1. Notice how the preview now went down by 3 inches here. Okay. The right margin, the left margin, they want to go at 3, and also the right margin. So you can see now that all this is pushed together, and this is all the margins on the document, and the bottom is at 1 inch. Okay, so once we've selected those numbers, then we can say OK. And you see what this has done. This has kind of pushed it all together. It did move the text that you had in the header over. That's okay. We're just focused on how this is going to look here in the menu. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to add a page border to your document. But my menu is right here. I don't want to include the header in my menu. That's just part of the assignment. What I want to do is focus on the menu. So how do we make a page border, and how do we make it so it's just around what we want it to be around? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to say click on the Design tab up here. Okay, and then on the Page Borders, which is way over here on the right side. Page Borders. This brings up our borders and shading. And what we need to do is here on Page Border, in this middle button, it says the setting, and here's the setting, should be on box. Okay. The style should be your choice, so you can pick any of these lines that you like. You know, I might just go with this double zigzag, and you see again, here's the preview. It's showing you what it's doing. Okay, the color can be anything of your choice as well. I'm just going to go with an orange. You see that's also previewed, and the width of this line now needs to be at 3 point. We can do that. You know, I think the border that I picked will not go up any higher, so maybe I should pick a border that's going to be a little bit better to do. So say if I do this, yeah, that lets me go, goodness sakes, 3 point. There we go. And I need to make sure I click that box again because this was still on that thin line. once I pick the 3-point, I need to make sure I click on that box, and you see how this was affected, okay? Now, one other thing. Notice that this says apply to the whole document, and we don't necessarily want to do that. So see this little options button down here, and I'm here in the directions. Let's go ahead and click on that, because this is how we're going to tell it to go just around our menu and not around the whole page. So when you're here under the margin section, you say measure from. And right now it says edge of the page, and that would make it go all around the edge of the page. What we want to do is measure around from the text, okay? And notice that it moved here in the preview also. Also, under the options section, we want to make sure that we deselect the following two boxes. Surround the footer, and then surround the header, okay? So with those two, then we can say okay. All right, that brings us back to this border and shading. And we can say okay again. And you see that this actually, it did not run it around the edge of the page. It ran it just around the menu like what we had intended. Once you reach that point, I would hit Command S again to save it. Bring this up a little closer so you can see. And I'm also giving you a finished example, and so we can add that, and you're done. You can go in and do a spell check, and you will be ready to put that document up onto Google Classroom. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the class.